All right, 8.7, factoring when there's a number in front of the x squared. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. So factoring pattern for ax squared plus bx plus c. First and foremost, always see if you can factor out something. That's always the rule for factoring. Factor out a number if you can. In this case, we have 213 and negative 24, so there are no common factors between those numbers. We can do it just like we've been doing. I know I have two factors. Since this is a 2, I only have one set of factors for 2, right? 2 and 1. So I know one of these has to be a 2x and the other one has to be the x. But 24, I have some factors. Let's see, we have 24 and 1, 12 and 2, 8 and 3, 6 and 4. So there's a number of factors for 24. But if you, here's a hint that'll help you make your decisions when you're trying to guess and check kind of what goes in there. If there's a 2 there, or whatever number is there, can't be a factor of the number that you put with it. Otherwise, you could have factored something out in the first place. So that means we can rule out 24 going in there. We can rule out the 12-2 pair going in there. We can rule out the 6-4 pair going in there. So let's look at the 8 and 3. If I put, so I can either put 8 here and 3 here, or flip it around. So let's look at what we'd have for middle terms if I did it this way. 8 times 2 is 16, and this would be a 3x. So 16 and 3, that doesn't, excuse me, that could help me because I want positive 13. So I would have to make this minus 3x. To do that, I would need to put the negative there and the positive there. So those are my two sets of factors. Now we'll try it a different way. So the other way of doing it is by using diamond factoring. And what you do to diamond factor is you just multiply. So we're going to get rid of this stuff. You draw a diamond or a big X on your paper, and inside of that X, this top part is a times c, so it will be 2 times negative 24, which is negative 48, and we bring the x squared with, so negative 48x squared. And you see on the bottom, well, you could almost see on the bottom, that it says b. I place b in here, so this is 13x. And these two side compartments are for things that multiply together to give us negative 48 and add together to give us 13. So if they multiply together to give us a negative number, I know one has to be negative, one has to be positive. And the difference has to be 13, a positive 13. So I have to think of factors of 48. One that's bigger than 13, because it's going to be that number minus another number to get to the 13. So I know that factors of 48 bigger than 13. I know 16 and 16 goes into 48 3 times. So 16 and 3. I want to end up with a positive 13. Excuse me. So I think I might have said that the other way. So I need the 16 to be positive and the 3 to be negative. So 16 times negative 3 is negative 48. But 16 times, or plus 3, negative 3 is positive 13. So I take those two side numbers and I place them in either order, it doesn't matter, these boxes. You'll notice that this comes from just right there, and then negative 24 comes from right there. So I place those two in the boxes. And then I put the two numbers that we found. And then we've done this with to FOIL. So we're going to unfoil it, I guess. So I'm looking for two things that multiply together right here to give me 2x squared. And I also want to look at the numbers with it. So if I look this way, I have a 2x squared and a 3x. The common factor there is just going to be x. If I look the other way, if I look, whoops, let me rearrange here, this way, I have common factors of 2x. So 2x times x is x 2x squared. 2x times what? I'm going to erase some of these arrows because now I got lots of writing on there. So now I look for 2x times 8 gives me the 16x. And then I look at the top, 8 times something gives me negative 24. That would be a negative 3. I could have gotten it from looking at the bottom row. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. So here's another way of getting my factors. We got them the more traditional way already, but 2x minus 3 is one factor, and x plus 8 is the other factor. All right, so here we're back at it. So again, we can factor this 2 different ways. Let's do both ways. If I factor it the more traditional way, again, I have to look for factors of 5y squared, and I know that it's got to be 5y and y because those are the only factors for 5. For 6, I have 6 and 1, 3 and 2. None of them share factors with 5, so we have to just kind of guess and check. So if we would guess 6 here and a 1 here, I would just double check. So this would be 5 and that would be 6. So that would, it looks like they both have to be the same sign. Both of them have to be negative. That only gives me 6 and 5, 11. So that's not going to help. So let's try a different one. Let's try 3 and 2. Let's try the 3 here and the 2 there. If I do that, the top will give me 15y. This will give me 2y. Hey, look at that. So I need this order, and it would be 5y minus 2 and y minus 3. The other way, I multiply a and c together, and I get 30y squared. And negative 17y goes here. Two things that multiply together give me 30, add together give me negative 17, it'll be negative 15 and negative 2. So I would put negative 15 and negative 2y in here, and it doesn't matter which ones I put where. Sorry, negative 2. Again, I look for common factors between 5 and 15, so 3, hello, that would be 5. 5y would go here, so that means y would have to go here. 5 times something is 15, negative 15y, so that's negative 3. Y times something is negative 2y, so that would be my minus 2. And here we get the factors 2y minus 3 and 5y minus 2. So here's a trinomial written in an order that we're not used to, not standard form. So we can just rewrite it. So first step, I would have had negative 3p squared minus, plus 5p plus 22. And we don't really necessarily like factoring things with a negative in front of them, but we can pull that out. You see it says same as negative 1 times 3p squared minus 5p minus 22. So that's the thing that we can go with. Traditional way, I know I have to start with, I'm going to have that negative 1 just hanging out, but I have a 3p here and a p here. Factors of 22, 11 and 2. Multiply together to give me a negative 22, add together to give me a negative 5. I know that one has to be negative and one has to be positive. The bigger one, in fact, has to be negative. So let's try the 2 here and the 11 here. If I do that here, I get 6p, and here I get 11p, and I want it to be a negative 5, so it'll be negative 11 and positive 2. That give me negative 11p plus 6p, which is negative 5p. If I do it the other way, I take negative 22 times 3, which is negative 66p squared. We'll go on the top. In the bottom, we go our negative 5p. Multiples of 66 that add up, or multiples of negative 66 that add up to negative 5. 11 and 6 would be, and I would want negative 11p and positive 6p. Again, I put my a p squared there and my c here, and then I fill in the two terms that we found. And I'm going to start here because I need factors of 3p squared and 6p, a common greatest common factor, which would be 3p. And this way I would have a p. P times negative 11 is negative 11p. 3p times 2 is 6p. And you can always use that last box to check, so negative 11 times 2 is negative 22. So remember we pulled that negative 1 out, so that just hangs out in front. We have 3p minus 11 and p plus 2. So there's two different ways of factoring it. Pause me and you try to factor these. All right, so for the first one, we only have two factors for 3, so 3x and x, and two factors for -2, -2 and 1, so it ends up being 3x minus 2 and x plus 1. I can check my middle terms here. I have positive 3x minus 2x, that ends up with x, which is what we want in the middle. The next one, hopefully you recognize you can take out a 2. Always factor something out if you can. If you take out a factor of 2, you end up with 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. Again, we have to factor that. Don't forget to bring your 2 down. Very important that 2 has to be part of it because we have to be able to multiply this whole thing together again to get back to where we started. So now I'm looking at factoring this, and I know the first spot, the only thing it can be is 3x and x. So 3x plus 2 and x plus 1, check my middle terms. Here would give me 3x, here would give me 2x, so a total of 5x, which is what we want in the middle. So that's my factor form, 2 times x plus 3x plus 2 times x plus 1. And in this bottom one, again, I only have a couple of sets of factors for 21, 7, and whoops, I need a 3 here. 7 times 3, or 21 times 1. And 8, we have 8 and 1, 4 and 2. Let's check our middle terms here if I have it in this arrangement. Here would be a negative 28x. Here would be a 6x. So negative 28x, excuse me, plus 6x would give me the negative 22x.